guys, it's Amélie, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 best books that I've read this winter. As you guys may have noticed if you've been on my channel for a while, if you're new by the way, hit that subscribe button down below. But I don't really do reading wrap-ups on a regular basis. I do them every once in a while, but usually I just don't really do them. I feel like they're really time consuming and I don't always have like very strong opinions about all the books that I'm reading, so I just feel like sometimes it's kind of pointless for me to do a reading wrap-up when I don't really have much to share about each book. But I wanted to share with you guys the best books that I've read this year so far, because even though I read some pretty great books this year, as you'll be able to see, my reading year so far has been kind of meh, and it's kind of disappointing for me so far, but I have a few books that I've just absolutely loved, and I am super excited to talk about them with you guys. So the first book that I've read this year and absolutely loved is The 7th Death of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. The title is also known as The 7.5 Death of Evelyn Hardcastle, so this is the very first book that I started reading in 2019. I actually started reading it at the end of 2018 and finished it early in 2019, and I absolutely loved it. So we are following our main character whose goal is to save Evelyn Hardcastle from being killed. Basically, we're at this big party with like a lot of posh people. It's very fancy, and like there's a lot of rich people and like their servants and everything. And our main character is reliving the same day over and over again, and at the end of each day, Evelyn Hardcastle gets killed, and our main character's goal is to save Evelyn from being killed. Here's the thing though, our main character will be in a different body every single day. That means that he gets to relive the same day in a different perspective somewhat. I absolutely loved this book. It was so good, so different from everything that I've read. Honestly, I'm usually not a big fan of mystery thrillers. I find them to be very predictable and I always guess the outcome before it happens, so it's not a genre that I normally pick up. However, this one was so hyped that I had to give it a try, and I was really not disappointed. The concept itself is amazing. I mean, the main character relives the same day in a different body and it has to solve a murder. So that was very interesting in itself, and the fact that we don't know whose body the main character is going to be in the next day makes the book in itself very unpredictable. Even if we know that at the end of the day, Evelyn Hardcastle dies, there are so many little details surrounding that big event that will happen before Evelyn dies that makes it very unpredictable, and we don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not kidding when I tell you guys that I never saw the ending coming. Like, never in a million years had I seen this happening. I think the author did a phenomenal job at tying everything together in the end. This book is amazing, and I think we have to take into account the setting here because it is so dark and gloomy and very atmospheric, and the writing does a great job at rendering that. It was very enticing. From the very beginning, I was drawn in. I really was completely immersed into this universe, and I think the author did an incredible job at it. Overall, this book is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it, and even if like me, you're not a big fan of mystery thrillers, give this book a try. Honestly, it was so good. If you haven't read this already, stop everything and just like go read it. It's amazing. I loved it so much. The second book that I wanted to talk about today is The Wicked King by Holly Black. So I don't think this is that much of a surprise to you guys, especially if you've watched my Wicked King reading vlog, which will be linked up here if you guys want to check it out. But I loved this book so much. I love The Cruel Prince, which I read last year, 2018. I read it in December and I just fell in love with it. It is one of the most hyped books on BookTube. But personally, I really loved it. I won't spend too much time talking about the plot of the book because The Wicked King is a sequel to The Cruel Prince, so I don't want to spoil anything. But let me just say that Holly Black took things like up a notch. It was amazing. So incredible. I have no words to describe it. I loved it so much. But I really love the political aspect of the plot. It was so interesting to read about, and I feel like once again we take it up a notch in this book because at first in The Cruel Prince, Jude is after power, and the second book is about Jude managing power, which is very different. We see a different perspective on all of this fairy world. Being in the position that she's now, Jude sees things differently, and now she has to manage the power that she craved at first, and we see how she struggles with it. I love this so much, and I also love how the political aspect really carved the relationships in this book. Politics played a huge role in every single relationship that Jude has, and of course the story itself had a lot of good twists and turns that I hadn't seen coming, betrayals, all that stuff. The ending, once again, I was done. I was like, oh my god, I am out of this world. What the hell was that? I need the next book. But I loved it so much, and if you guys haven't checked out The Cruel Prince yet, highly recommend, and The Wicked King is even better. So the next book that made it to my top 5 books of winter is Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. I talked about this book briefly in my February favorites, I believe. So I will leave, once again, a link up here if you want to watch it. So this book follows our two main characters, Zori and Lennon. And Zori and Lennon used to be the best of friends. But a year before, they had a big fallout that made them turn from friends to enemies. And when a camping group trip comes up, both of them decide to attend without knowing that the other is going. Let's just say that the camping trip kind of goes wrong and Zori and Lennon are now stranded in the wild and they have to figure out a way to make it back to civilization. Oh my god, you guys, this book, I loved it so freaking much. I am a big fan of Jen Bennett. I really liked Alex Approximately, which I've read 2 years ago now. And more recently, I read Serious Moonlight, which is her upcoming novel. It isn't out yet, but I got an arc for it and I absolutely loved it as well. But this one is her best work in my opinion. Like, I loved it so freaking much. I think it's mostly because of their main characters. Zori and Lennon have a very complex past because, as I mentioned, they went from best friends to sort of lovers to enemies and to lovers again, and like all the best tropes are in this, so like just so you know, it's amazing. If you like these tropes, read this. But I feel like their relationship was so interesting to read about, knowing what happened and how it happened and everything that the main characters didn't know about the other. I feel like this book is a lot about finding out who you are, because I feel like these characters had their path like set up for them, and Zori was happy walking on this path, but she didn't know the whole picture. And this book was really interesting for that. And I love these characters. Their relationship was incredible. Their chemistry, you guys, I loved it. And the plot in itself was really good as well. I love books where people are like stranded somewhere and they have to figure out a way to make it back. This book is amazing and highly recommend you check it out. The fourth book that I wanted to talk about today is Addicted for Now by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the second book in the Addicted series, and I feel like I've talked about this series a lot on my channel before, but we're still gonna talk about this because it was a reread for me and it is one of my favorites. So I'm not gonna talk about the plot of this book specifically because it is a sequel, but for those of you who are not familiar with the Addicted series, it follows our two main characters, Lily and Lo, and both of them are addicts, and these books are about them fighting their addiction. So as I was saying, this book is the second book in the series, and while I love the first book, this book is just, oh my god, I think it's my favorite so far in the entire series. In this book, we actually get Lo and Lily's perspective, whereas in the first book, we only read from Lily's point of view. And it was so interesting to actually read about Lauren, because I feel like we don't really, like, we read about him, but we don't read from his perspective. And that was so interesting for me to like see the other side. I just feel like I said, we talk a lot about him, but we never really get his point of view on things. And it was really fun and different to read from his perspective. Also, I feel like the plot of this book was so much better than the one in the other books, but it is divided into 3 different parts, and I feel like that played a big role in my enjoyment of the book because it is a chunky book. I was afraid that this was going to be boring and repetitive, but it's actually really not. And I just loved like the mystery aspect and the big plot twist at the end. I just highly recommend this series. These characters are amazing. Lily and Lo's chemistry and relationship is just, it makes my heart melt. Oh my god, I love this so much. And the last book that I wanted to talk about today is actually a series, and that series is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. So I read this in my last 24-hour readathon, which once again will be linked up here if you guys want to check it out. For those of you who are not familiar with The Darkest Minds, the book is set in our world, but it is a post-apocalyptic type of book. There has been a virus or some type of like sickness that has affected children only, and the children who didn't die developed powers. There are a lot of different types of powers. We have telekinesis, like mind stuff, analytical powers, fire stuff. Like, I'm really not good at explaining these powers, and electricity powers. So Ruby is one of the people who has developed powers, and those kids are sent to rehabilitation camps. But one day Ruby finds out that she's very different from what she had anticipated. Basically, there's 2 superpowers that the government is trying to eliminate. There's Orange, which is mind read, like the people who do like mind stuff, and we have the Reds, who are the people who control fire. And Ruby finds out that she's not actually a green, the analytical like number power thing. She's actually an orange, and she gets taken under by this nurse who is like, hey, you're gonna die, you have to escape. And Ruby escapes, and things go from there. I feel like I explained this plot very badly, but like, if you want a full plot, I'll leave the link to the book down below because mine was just a freaking mess. But you got the idea. That's what's important. So, what do I say about this book? I loved it so much. I was so surprised by it because it has been written in like 2013, around that era, back when dystopian novels were still very popular. And I thought this was gonna be another one of like those Hunger Games type of books. But oh my god, you guys, I was really surprised by it, mostly because I really fell in love with the characters, and I feel like I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought it was gonna be very childish and like very teenage angsty, and while there is some teenage angst, I mean, we know that era, but I just loved how this world worked, and I feel like Alexandra Bracken did an incredible job at developing this world and these characters. And I loved it so freaking much. I need to watch the movie now because it was amazing. And if I'm being honest, I really liked Never Fade, the sequel. I think I liked it more than The Darkest Minds. Like, The Darkest Minds is really good. Like, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But Never Fade, it's very different from The Darkest Minds because we see a completely different side of this world and the characters. You guys, Never Fade is just amazing. Wow. I was so impressed, and I cannot wait to read the 3rd book in the series because so far the first 2 books have been completely incredible. Highly recommend them if you haven't checked them out already, honestly. I feel like I'm the only one who hasn't read them yet, but I don't even have words to describe how much I love this series. So go check it out. So that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what is your favorite book that you've read this winter so far. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give this a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And I guess that's it. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!